guys. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how to manage your real estate business like a business. And I was saying this a little bit ago, but basically this is obviously not like substantive real estate content, but this is a brand new class. So I welcome the feedback, and those of you guys that have been in the business for a while that have any great tips that are working for you, please share. It's just, we would be remiss if we didn't help you guys set up your businesses for success, or at least give you some tips so that you can decide how to do it. So our goal for today is not to tell you what to do. It's not to give you an official system. It's really just to introduce you to some business ideas, some organization ideas that will help you manage the business component of your real estate career successfully. So we're not talking about how to grow your business or how to do the business. It's really like how to run the business. So any questions about that? No. Okay, so we did a goal for today, and now you guys know, since I'm a lawyer, I'm going to give you the caveat for today, which is that I'm not a CPA. Angela's not a CPA. We're not financial planners. These are all just suggestions and insights we've gathered over time. We actually reached out to a bunch of agents who were new here and aren't new anymore, and asked them for their feedback to make sure we were covering all the bases. So the best tip you can take away here is that you should engage professionals to help you guys do this. There's a lot of nuances to being self-employed and running your own business. It's really, really hard to figure it out on your own. And I also think that it's not something that you want to get into the business or be doing it for 2 or 3 years and then say, okay, now it's time to like hire a planner. If you start at the beginning with a planner, they'll help you with tax savings. So hire a professional. That's the first tip. So question for you guys: what are the different roles that an agent plays in a transaction, or that you guys are expected to be good at, right? Like when you signed up to be a realtor, you know, it's not just I list houses and I sell houses. Like it's way much more than that. So give me some things that you do. I always say you have to be good at like at least 10 things, which is impossible. Nobody's good at all pieces. Anyone have ideas, right? Help me out here.
Knowing your market.
Yep, you have to be a market expert. Negotiation expert.
I would say facilitator.
Yes, a guide.
Knowing the lenders, knowing insurance people, knowing, you know, because a lot of people may not have the contacts you do, and always reach out and say, if you need someone, let me know. I mean, not that you're endorsing someone, you have to let them know that, but to put them in contact with the people that can make things happen.
Yeah, you're a source of vendors.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, Sarah?
Managing expectations.
Yes, you're an expectation manager. You
multitasking.
Marketer. Yes, multitasking. There's the list goes on and on. You're a therapist sometimes. You're a relationship guru between spouses sometimes. So this is just a list of like, you know, a few roles that you play, right? Many of these. These are all true. You're a decorator sometimes, like it's crazy. But I would say the most important role, one of the most important roles that will be crucial to your success, is being the CFO of your own business and the CEO of your own business, right? And those are ones that we kind of forget, which is why we're doing this class in the first place. So, you know, let's start with being the CFO of your business. Like, what are the things that you need to know and be doing? And I'm just going to walk through a list here, and we can talk through them as we go, and then we can also see what we missed. So what are the things that you should know or should be doing? Like, this is a piece of advice that a financial planner I heard give to a group of realtors recently. Is, you know, his advice was keep 2 months of living expenses in your personal checking account and keep 6 months of living expenses in an emergency bucket that doesn't get touched except for emergencies. And I always say that when we're interviewing new people, that it may be like 6 months before you have your first closing. We hope it's not. So you need to have a lot of dry powder. And then of course, when you're in the business, you know, real estate is up and down. It's not that steady, consistent, you know, paycheck twice a month. So encourage you to always just keep a chunk set aside for a rainy day, a dry spell, a family emergency where you can't work, whatever it might be. So those are some tips. Then this one, I started here, hire a financial planner, right? From the beginning. And they want your business. They're willing to work with you regardless of where you are. Just talk to them about, you know, what are some systems and processes and things you should do to provide tax savings. And that's kind of what we're doing today, is talking about a few ways to just help make sure your business is running efficiently. Anyone, any questions about that? Okay. Then understand what you can and can't write off. This was actually a direct piece of advice from one of our like agents that had started their business here, is that like she thought certain things could be written off and they couldn't. I actually found something that I thought was a write-off the other day that isn't, from my CPA. So just understand what can and can't be written off so that you can kind of keep track of those expenses better. Have you guys had any surprises about stuff like that? No? No, okay. You know, then pay your taxes quarterly. What, is that right? Yeah. Allocate your paychecks to expenses as they come in before you spend anything. So kind of, you need to have a budget, right? Obviously we talked to you about having a marketing budget for the year and like a real estate expense budget, but you need really a life budget too, so that as those checks come in, you can divide it up and say, you know, I'm putting this much away for taxes and this much away for real estate expenses, and this much is going to cover my personal expenses. You need to know like how each check gets broken up. And this is not really the most fun thing to do, but it's really, really important to making sure that you are keeping yourself organized. So kind of know how to allocate your paychecks, and then pay your taxes quarterly. Those were the number one and number two most frequently suggestions from the agents, was be sure to pay your taxes quarterly, because the worst thing to do is have a big chunk of taxes due and not have saved the cash. That's very, very painful. And I will tell you that I talked to agents that are like huge mega producers that have been in the business for years that get bit by this still. So if you can build this discipline into your business execution now, it's a really, really good thing to do, and figure out what is the right way for you to set this money aside. And we're going to talk about this a little bit on some later slides, is what's the right way to structure your finances to kind of keep this stuff all organized. How are we doing here? I'm talking fast. This class isn't going to be very long. It's kind of just throwing random nuggets at you and hoping that you pick up some good ideas to incorporate. Does anyone have questions? You know me, I talk fast. Are we good? I can't see everyone because my screen keeps hiding.
I have one question.
Sure.
And I can't remember how much taxes are we supposed to save? What's the percentage? I always forget the number.
People say 15 to 20%.
15%. Okay.
I mean, obviously the more you're making, the more you're having to pay. But
Sure.
Right now, I would think 20% would be like a safe bet.
Mm-hmm.
And then for each transaction, what should we save? 15% of that transaction or no?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a great way, is that like if you get a $10,000 commission check, take $2,500 and put it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right. Just allocate it that way. And we're going to talk a little bit about like what's the right way to do that, having separate accounts or whatever it is that works for you. If you're paying on a quarterly basis, you don't have to keep it set aside for too long, right? Because you're paying every 3 months. And someone said, be sure those dates are posted. Just put them in your calendar and put a reminder there, so you drop that check in the mail, so you're not getting stuck with a big one and penalties, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so figure out how you're going to track your expenses and reconcile at least once a quarter. I think that once a quarter is probably not enough, but I also know that most realtors aren't necessarily super inclined to sitting down and like crunching numbers all the time. So you at least got to do it once a quarter so you can write your checks, right? Yeah, Jana, does this make sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah, you've been doing this. Okay, Allie says her accountant says do 33%. So that's good. Dexter says 25%. Yeah. And that's safe. You'd rather have more and then be like, oh yeah, I have a little bit left over. I already have a nest egg for next time. I think that's wise. So then, use an app to track your mileage. This one is a huge lifesaver, and you will save a ton of money. I mean, you guys are driving so much. So I use Mile IQ. I heard someone recommend Everlance the other day. But Mile IQ is awesome because if you do the same drives over and over, it just will automatically classify them for you. And it's nice. Like once a month, I just sit down and you basically are swiping like this was a business expense. This was not a business expense. Or you could do it at the end of the day or once a week. So it just tracks you, and then you can export it into a little Excel spreadsheet. It tells you how much mileage you've done. So highly recommend if you're not doing that. There's a lot of savings there, and it's really easy the way that these apps have done it. I think QuickBooks has one built in too, if you use QuickBooks. but I tried the QuickBooks one before and it was confusing to me. So, okay. So then this was my like number one tip that when I started in the real estate business that my bookkeeper at the time told me to do. And he said, pick a debit card or a credit card that you are only going to put all of your real estate expenses on, and then only use that card for that. And that way you're deciding like at the point of sale, like, am I going to lunch with my friend Sarah, or was this a business lunch with Sarah? You don't have to think back. You put it on that card. So it was clearly a business lunch, right?
And Zareen?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a credit card for that. And then you also put all of your dues and everything, you plug in that credit card for all of that. And then you can just go look at the statement and keep it, on your spreadsheet.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. It's, you can put your Briggs Freeman dues, your licensing dues, your CE credit, like all of that stuff.
Yeah, it
Put
helps.
it on there and it's in one place. And then at the end of the year, most credit cards give you like a year-end summary, and you can see like I spent 30% on gas and 25% on meals and expensive and 50% on real estate photography. I think those added up to more than 100, but you guys know what I'm talking about. It's just, that was the most helpful to me because I'm not good at keeping receipts and like all of that, just to put it on the credit card and then not think about it. Or if you, and of course, if you're using a credit card, pay the credit card off every month. So maybe I should just say debit card there that's connected to your same business bank account. It depends what your like philosophy is about credit cards. I always use credit cards, but I always act like they're debit cards and make sure that they're paid off because I like to like game the system and use the points, right? Totally up to you. So any questions there? No, does this make sense? Am I missing anything? Probably I'm missing lots, but these are just ideas for you guys, hopefully. Okay, so then, you get a commission check, like, yay, like what should you do with it, right? So the best piece of advice, and this is another frequently suggested piece of advice, was make sure that you have a separate business banking account, right? Like to keep your personal account and to just deposit commission checks into your personal account and then try to keep track of everything is really, really hard. So if you can set yourself up neatly where you have a business banking account and your commission checks go into there, then most places, if you open a business account, they'll let you like piggyback on a savings account and you could move your tax stuff over. Does that make sense? And then that's separate. And then you can, pay your expenses, your credit card or your debit card, of course, out of that business banking account. And then you can pay yourself as well into your personal account where you like pay your living expenses. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Am I stating the obvious here? You guys all like, duh.
I heard about that in training, but do you have to have a business? Like, do you have to create a business to have a business banking account?
That's a good question. So if you want to get into a very in-depth discussion about this, you can reach out to Jeremy Bravo in the 4th office, because he says that he started an entity and opened a business bank account and started using a debit card 2 years into his business. And he's like, I desperately wish I had done that from day one. It would have made doing taxes and just financial planning and understanding the numbers of my business so much easier. And he says, I didn't do that. And it was a mess the first 2 years. I don't think you necessarily need to open an entity, especially because in the state of Texas, your entity to get paid commissions has to be licensed. So you can really just open up another account in your name. So
okay, what is his name? Jeremy what?
Jeremy Bravo.
Okay.
Yeah, he's just a good guy to know. He's
Thank
super big ninja and just super friendly, nice guy. But Angela, I don't know if that's the thing about Texas is that you can't ask to be paid your commission checks to an entity if the entity is not also licensed.
That is correct. And if at our policy at Briggs Freeman Sotheby's is that if you are not you can either be a broker and do it, right? Or I act as the sponsoring broker now. Robbie used to be it for agents who want to be paid through an entity, but we've got some requirements and stuff. There's a policy with, I think it's about $20 million and, so many under your belt. So,
yeah, it's more for experienced agents. And I will tell you guys, when you're just getting started in business, setting up an LLC and then making sure you're paying, it has to have its own tax returns. You have to pay franchise taxes. Like it's a whole ball of wax. So until you're really like blowing and going and making some good money, I would not spend the time or effort or money it costs to kind of set that up and make sure it's licensed and doing tax returns for it and all that good stuff. That's me personally. And you know, because it has to be licensed, you can't really do that here until you're busy, but you don't really need to open a business account in the name of an entity. You can just open, I'm calling it a business account. You can just make sure you have a separate bank account for your business. Does that make sense?
Right. And I had an agent who, you know, meets the criteria to do it aside from not being a broker. And she went and talked to her CPA about it. And he said, there's really not much savings, you know,
Yeah.
and she's pretty successful, you know, a couple $100,000 a year making. And they said, really, there's really, you're not getting much perk. You know, a lot of people thinks it's a huge tax saving. So,
yeah. So, I agree. It's not really worth it. Of course, I'm not, as Angela says, I'm not a CPA. So talk to
Nor am I.
your tax preparer and they can advise you if you want an S Corp, if you want an LLC, if you want to get into that when your business is ready. But for now, I'm just trying to help you guys funnel the money in the right way and keep things organized because it's a lot, right?
Right. Well, can't you just, if you open up a checking account, can't you just have your name and then comma realtor on it? I know Nancy does.
Yep.
She's also got sole proprietor realtor, but I don't know what that means tax
If she has an
wise.
LLC, that might be what she means there, like a single member pass through. But
Yeah,
again, as soon as you form an entity, that entity has to have its own tax return, pay its own franchise taxes, which if it's a single
Yeah.
member pass through, it's not additional money, it's just additional paperwork. So,
right. I would think she would just have it titled realtor account or whatever.
yeah, exactly. So you can just call it like
Yeah.
Jana Fisher Realtor so that you know that that's where the commission checks go and then you distribute from there.
Right.
Good. Okay, so then, you know, speaking of that, so you open this account and then you divide your checks as they come in and distribute the funds. So you're going to say, okay, well, I got this $10,000 check and I got to set my, you know, 20 to 33% aside from the IRS. And then I, you know, save 10% to donate and I have to pay my real estate expenses. And then, you know, you pay yourself last out of what's left. So that's kind of how it goes. Any questions there? That's my kind of recommendation. Maggie's asking if there's legal protection if you have an LLC. I mean, in theory, yes. I don't know how well that would actually work. And also if it's a single member pass through and someone wants to, it's called pierce the corporate veil and get to you, unless you're being very diligent about keeping everything separate, I don't know how protected you are. I think in real estate, if you're super worried about liability, you should get an umbrella that just covers you. It's just a little bit of extra insurance and you can get it attached to your homeowner's policy. I think mine's like $220 a year or something for like $1 million of coverage for different things, a total of $1 million of coverage. So ask your insurance person if you're interested in an umbrella. I don't think the LLC is necessary. And again, you can't do it until you're achieving a certain level of business here because it has to be licensed. Yeah, Arlene, I'm looking at the chat right now. Arlene's saying her accountant can't run her commissions through the LLC because she's licensed and not the LLC. And that's what Angela's talking about. Exactly. Okay, cool. Yes. And then to Elena's point, if you do create an LLC, and you don't want to refer to yourself as Elena K Realtor LLC like all the time, you have to then file a DBA. So it's just more paperwork. So my point is it gets a little bit more complicated until you're really like blowing and going in the business. I don't think there's necessarily any huge benefit to doing it. That makes sense?
Well, I don't have an LLC. I just had to get a doing business as, so it didn't have to be my former, like my name on my Bank of America account. I could call it Elena K Real Estate. That's what I had to get the DBA for.
Gotcha.
Or else it would have been like my name, my last name on my bank account.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's helpful. So she's saying if you want to open up a business account that says like business or realtor or something like on it, the bank may require you to have a DBA so that it like looks official. And that's not like super hard to get. It's just
No, it was really easy. Yeah, you just go to cool.
Yes, thank you, Elena. That's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. And then this was the advice of one of our agents, which I thought was really interesting, and she's very diligent. She does this setup where she has her, own business account, her commissions go in there and she pays all of her expenses and she sets it aside. And then she pays herself a set amount on a schedule. Now she's of course busy and consistently making commissions, but she pays herself on the 1st and the 15th of every month, which I thought was really interesting, because she's kind of consistently having closings now. So it just depends how you want to do it. I thought that was a good piece of advice. Most agents will, pay their expenses and then pull out everything else to pay their personal expenses, but it's a function of how much you're making and how much you're spending, right? Okay, so now tracking expenses. So obviously we need to be kind of paying attention, and as you guys are building and learning your business, you'll be like, wow, at the end of the year I spent $1,000 keeping myself licensed between Trek and MetroTex or GFWAR and CE credits and all of that stuff. So you want to just track your expenses. Keeping them like I said on your credit card in one place is nice because you can get a year-end summary that kind of shows you. But you also want to do that, I said, at least on a quarterly basis, probably on a monthly basis, and figure out what works for you, right? Like some people love apps and software and are like into QuickBooks. Some people can just do it in Excel, which is pretty easy and straightforward. That's probably the most simple way to do it to get started. Quicken is like a slightly less aggressive version of QuickBooks, and I think Quicken is a good product. Or just use a bookkeeper. I have a property management business on the side, so I use a bookkeeper. I'm also not very expense minded. I'm not good at it, so the bookkeeper helps me a lot, and then I can read the report she generates. But I also kind of have a few things going on, so just figure out what works for you and choose one. Even if it's just keeping an Excel spreadsheet for now, and you'll look at two things, right? Your credit card expenses and your income from your bank account. And of course, you can always log into BFSIR Connect and look at your income for the year or the past years and your expenses as well. So you guys all know how to do that. If you want to see like what you're making and what you're spending at Briggs Freeman, you can go to bfsirconnect.com and look at your account. It's all right there saved for you. It's awesome. So any questions about that? That's kind of the end of the little like finances discussion. Is this helpful? Is this confusing? Am I missing anything? How are we doing?
Very good.
Okay. Dexter is generous, but I'll take it. Thank you. Knew I liked him. Okay. So now the next discussion is now you're also, the CEO of your business, right? So what do CEOs do? They kind of manage and oversee everything, and they make the decisions and they make sure the business is working. And that's what you guys have to do. And I think as realtors, we can spend a lot of times like in the weeds, spinning plates, like executing the business without taking a big step back to look and see like the CFO thinks, like, how is my business really running? What's the way to make it run the most effective? So these were the tips that we received and that I think are good ones. Work on a regular schedule, but of course, real estate is not Monday through Friday, nor is it 9 to 5. So you have to figure out what is your schedule. It's like, I know I'm really busy, Friday afternoons through Tuesday afternoons. So I'm going to try to take off Wednesdays or plan my personal stuff on Wednesdays. Like just get yourself into a routine. And like, it's like, I know I go to the office on Fridays to get ready for the weekend and Mondays to wrap up from the weekend. Like get yourself into a pattern and then stick to it, right? You'll be more efficient if you're working on a regular schedule. And it's important to come to the office so you can kind of get to know people. And that's how you learn also. I highly, highly encourage you to spend time at the office. I would say more and more people are coming back. The office is getting busier all the time. It's just a good way to meet experienced agents and kind of pay attention to what they're doing and also be available to help them. So, create a daily routine and then pay attention to how you spend your time. Routines are key in real estate, especially because you're like, well, what should I remember I went from, practicing law and sitting at my desk from like 6:30 in the morning to like 6:30 or 7 at night. So when I went into real estate, I was like, what am I supposed to be doing with myself? And I went to like every meeting and every class and everything, and would just go sit at the office because I like didn't know what else to do. So it's like, that's not, sitting at the office is not how you're going to make your most money, but you need to come to the office to do your work and then go be out and about. So just figure out what's a good routine. It's like, I watch the Monday morning meeting at home, and then I go on tour, and then I find a networking lunch, or I find an experienced agent to have lunch with, and then I go do my like wrap up from Sunday open house, right? Like figure out what's your routine and go into it. So much of what we do in real estate is work that, as you guys know, I call it important work, but not urgent. There's no deadline that you have to deliver something and turn it in. For a lot of the work that needs to be done, like lead generation, networking, following up, there's no deadlines on that stuff, but it all needs to happen on a regular basis. So make a routine for yourself, every day, and schedule the time for those things that are important. I'm going to get on my time blocking soapbox again, but schedule the time. And if you're new and you're kind of like, I felt this way when I was new, and maybe you guys don't. I was like, I'm just not sure like what I should be doing when, but I feel like I'm busy all the time. John Acuff, who wrote the Soundtracks book, has this thing called a time audit, where for 2 weeks, you just kind of note what you're doing and see where you're spending your time. And then you can kind of adjust it. It's just being mindful and aware. So it's a good idea. I don't know if any of you guys feel that way, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say before you change to another topic, when I first started as an agent, I would come to the office every day and write, notes to people, the same note, I might say, add to every single person I felt like I'd ever met, saying, hey, I've just joined Briggs Freeman, that whole, and one day I was talking to one of the agents who was really experienced. And I said, all I'm doing is writing notes, and I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. I don't have any clients. And at the time, my mom was taking care of my dad. And anyway, so I didn't have I felt so lost. And she's like, okay, here's one thing you can do. And granted, first of all, if I hadn't been at the office, I would have never had this conversation with her. And she wouldn't have given me this tip that now I give to all my agents, which is pull hot sheets every single day and mail them out to people, or pull them once a week and mail them out to people. But the point is that she was like, this will help you because of and this will do this. They have tips and tricks that just best practices that I never would have thought of. And, it was something that my mom, who'd been in business 30 years, had never done. And so, and not that she was a bad agent, because she's not, but that was just never part of her practice. So when I learned that from another agent, it was golden. So you just never know when you're at the office what you might get that turns out to be a really helpful best practice.
That's exactly right. That's awesome advice. For sure. Yeah. And I mean, real estate reviews are something great to do. And if you don't know that, there's tons of education and success center around them. And you can read that section of the Ninja book. But Catherine, that's such good advice. Being at the office and just picking up tips. The other thing is, and Jeremy Bravo, who we were talking about earlier, he posted, and I wish I had saved it and I didn't, he posted a meme in our little Facebook group one time that said, it was a picture of a phone and it had a sticky on it that said, pick me up, I make you money. And that's true. So just calling people, you could go to the office and just allocate some time to call people and check in with them. So the point was, have a daily routine, pay attention to how you spend your time. And then this one is like the most imperative, is have written goals and a written business and marketing plan. Even if you're just beginning, like that's okay. It's like, I want to do 4 deals this year, or whatever it is. Like, have a goal so you're working towards something. You'll feel more productive. You may hit your goal in 2 months and you're like, that was an easy goal, and I'm going to set a harder one for myself for the rest of the year. But you need to have a written goal and a written plan, so it gives you something to do. There's no successful business out there that doesn't have a written business plan or know what they're doing. And there may be experienced agents that have been in the business forever and ever that don't, but I guarantee you, if we sat down and talked it out with them, they know exactly what they're doing. They know how to make the deals come. They know what their business plan is. So I encourage you guys to get into the habit of writing one with goals, like right now. And we can help you with that. We have classes about that. We will help you do that. Catherine and Sherry and Agent Services are awesome about giving you a written marketing plan. Even if you have no budget for it, there's so much you can do at Briggs Freeman that there's no cost to. It's just your elbow grease and time.
And Zorene's 12-week year class in sessions is great. So I highly recommend, next time you're in the middle of one right now.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So I did it back in the fall, and I was like, okay, I've got to do this again, because it really did help keep me on track, just having that accountability. So
yes, that's what thank you, Angela. You're kind. The 12-week year is basically, when you have annualized goals, they loom large. And so the 12-week year is taking a handful of your goals and focusing on them for a 12-week period, and then breaking them down into like weekly and even daily chunks, and then checking in with yourself every week about how you did and being accountable, and having that little deadline really works. I know a handful of you guys on this call like either did it last time or are doing it right now, and it really makes a difference having someone to kind of report back to. So but the first step is writing it down and having a plan. And so then this goes to the 12-week year and to accountability in general. You need to be assessing on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, like what needs to happen and what has happened, right? So that you're staying on task. It's just checking in with yourself on a regular basis and stopping to assess, right? The CEO takes a big step back and like looks at how everything's going, and you guys need to do that. This was advice from an agent, like have a system and stay proactive. Kind of is the same thing we're already saying, like get into a routine, know what's supposed to be happening all the time, and then just stay proactive. And then the last one is, not the last one, but don't be afraid to ask questions. Like you guys are new, like there's like an overabundance of people that want to help you at Briggs Freeman, from other agents to your manager, to me, to Catherine, to Sherry. So please, please, please don't be shy. Like ask the questions. You'll do better if you know what you're doing. And there's so much you don't know, and we all know that. And it's really scary. So just ask. Don't be afraid. And then also to that point, like know what you don't know and surround yourself with people who do. So like I said, like I'm just not I could give myself like 4 days alone with QuickBooks to like study it and master it. And I would be like crying at the end of the 4 days and probably have made very little progress. And I know that about myself. So I use a bookkeeper. It's just easier for me. It's worth it for me to pay that person to help me. And she's awesome. So know what you don't know, and then surround yourself with people that can help you. It's that simple. So does anyone else have anything to add here? What are we missing? Anyone, anything? No? Okay. All right. So I'm going to point you in one direction that I think is just super, super helpful. And our Jameson Sotheby's International Realty counterpart in the Chicago area, their manager and lead broker there is named Jim Miller. And he is also a coach. He's awesome. He does what he calls Monday morning pep talks, and they're available on Apple. They're available. I listen on Apple. I'm sure they're available other places too. If you go to his website, askjimmiller.com, they're all there also. And this is a really good one. It's the August 23rd episode from last year. It's easy to find on his website or in Apple Podcasts. I'm sure it's easy to find other places too, but I don't know how to use those. And it's what they don't teach you in real estate school. It's just a good one. And in general, if you're ever like on a run or in the car looking for something good to listen to, Jim's podcasts are all awesome and they're super inspirational. And he's been doing this a long time. He was a broker forever. He says he had in 2007, he called it his real estate heart attack because he was working with a builder and doing new construction. When the market shifted, his whole like $1.5 million of commission pipeline like dried up. And he's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? He had a family, and he calls it his real estate heart attack, and how he fixed his business and kind of economy proofed his business. And now he trains and coaches. He's awesome. So I would encourage you to listen to at least this episode, but also like whatever else he has up there that's interested. I listen almost every week just because it's good and helpful. So askjimmiller.com. Michelle is asking if I would share my bookkeeper's info. I would be happy to, because she's a rock star and I would love to share. She's not, I actually have connected her with a couple agents in the past. She's not really looking for more work right now. I probably keep her hands full because I'm such a hot mess. That's not true. She has a lot of clients, and I don't think she's looking for more random, like unfortunately one-off clients. I just got super, super lucky. So I don't have, she's not looking for more clients, Michelle, or I would be happy to share. So I'm sorry. So I'm reading the comments. Yay, Allie, the class is helpful because she has lots of homework for her accountant. Sarah says it's good planning with tax timing approaching. Does anyone have any questions, anything to discuss? Did I forget anything? Is there anything else that you would like to know that would be helpful that we can talk about? I'm gonna stop sharing so we can see each other. Anyone? Helpful, good, not helpful? We should do this again. Very basic, maybe.
Very, very good. Thank you.
Well, Like I said, you're generous. I like you. All right.
Being honest, it was great.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Next week, let me look. Oh, next week is spring break. So I actually don't think we have agent basics. Let me confirm that. Yeah, there's no
I'm
spring
gonna
break.
say something.
Nothing next
Allie,
week.
Oh yeah, I just copy and pasted what my accountant, he broke down all kinds of things for me to write off for real estate in particular. So I think it's helpful to see. So I'm going to put it in the chat if anyone
Yes, please,
wants it,
please,
because
please.
I needed it.
And then I'll steal it and stick it in the slides for next time I do this
Yeah.
class.
And it's pretty simple, but I needed that. So here, I just put it in the chat if anyone needs that.
Yes. Awesome.
And Dexter, welcome. I'm excited that you're here.
thank you.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, Allie. Thank you. I'm going to put that into my presentation for next time. Appreciate
Yeah,
you.
I need to put that. I need to get to work. So
right.
thank you.
Okay, well, we're finishing early, but I'm not going to keep you for no reason. If anyone has any questions, I'll stick around. But thank you guys so much for joining, and I will see you in 2 weeks. It's winning the listings with Jennifer Edward. So this is awesome, super important content. Even if you've taken the class before, I highly encourage you to come back. Jennifer's such a good teacher. So we'll see you in 2 weeks. And if you have questions in the meantime, don't be shy. Bye, guys. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Thank you. Give